Hello and welcome back to another Doctor Who figure review. In today's Doctor Who figure review, I'll be taking a look at the companions of the 3rd and 4th Doctor set, part of the B&M October line of tweaked Doctor Who figure sets containing Sarah Jane, Romana 1 and Romana 2. So the way this video is going to work is I'm going to do the packaging, the articulation in detail, and do comparison to the existing figures and what figures character options we've used to make these new variants of the companions. So without further ado, let's look at the packaging for this set. So taking a look at the packaging for the companions of the 3rd and 4th Doctors. So again, we have the traditional style guide packaging with the Doctor Who Tardis etched design and the Gallifreyan text. The great window box display in all 3 figures there, so you can check for quality control. The limited edition sticker there, the name of the set, and the scale of the figures 5+ character options. On the side of the box we have the name of the set, and on the back we have the prototype images of the figures there and what's included within this set. On the other side we get exactly the same information, what's included within this figure set, and a nice window box display displaying the figures there from the side. So taking a look at the first figure within this set, and that is of course the Sarah Jane figure based from her appearance in the Monster Paladin. Now this is a bit of a close approximation to how she appears in the Monster Paladin. If you did pick up the Monster Paladin set earlier in the year with the 3rd Doctrine Tardis, then I have to say that they just work incredibly well together, that TARDIS and the 3rd Doctor. But with this figure I think it would have been quite interesting if they used the top half, the sort of torso piece from the sort of school reunion Sarah Jane, and obviously used the sort of standard Sarah Jane leg to create this, so you could have the sort of jumper being shown, but obviously this is sort of the closed jacketed version. So without further ado, let's look at the articulation for this figure and then we'll go on to the detail. So taking a look at the articulation for Sarah Jane, so the head can move side to side, the arms can do a full 360 degree turn, you have 360 degrees turn at the bicep, bend at the elbow, 360 degree turn at the wrists, 360 at the waist, the legs can kick out and do the splits, and of course go backwards ever so slightly. We'd have 360 degree turn at the thigh and bend at the knee. So taking a look at the detail for the Sarah Jane figure, so if we take a look at the head sculpt, so the head sculpt is exactly the same as the one seen in the sort of Genesis of the Daleks Revenge of Cybermen Sarah Jane. Again, we have the same exact detailing on the hair. You know, we've got the slight texturing to the hair, the various sort of sculpting where the hair sort of overlaps to give that sense of depth, and a slight sort of brown wash over it to really highlight the detailing on the hair itself, which is done very well. Obviously this isn't accurate to how it appears in sort of Monster Paladin, because obviously Sarah's hair in sort of season 11 was quite short, so we've got the normal head as seen from the first release of classic Sarah Jane. So exactly the same praises for the likeness, you know, great likeness to Elizabeth Sladen. You know, the hair is done very well, you know, despite the inaccuracies. So the costume is where we get to the main sort of complaints people have with this figure, and I have to say I have a bit of a soft spot for this figure actually. So for the torso they've used the Combat Martha Jones figure, and like I said, I think a better match would have been the Sarah Jane from School Reunion. So we take a look at the actual costume. You can see a grey line there to indicate Sarah's grey jumper underneath, much like what they did with the Revenge of the Cybermen Sarah Jane from the first set, with the sort of shirt sort of poking out there to give the illusion that there's a shirt underneath. And we have this sort of lighter sort of brown lines over to give the sort of definition of the jacket where it sort of would open. I think maybe if you got rid of that line there it would have been fine, but if you just kept the line there to give that sort of illusion of a lining, that would be fine. It just doesn't quite work for me there personally. So the actual jacket paint apps are pretty good. They've given a dark brown base coat and obviously a gloss finish to give that sort of leather look to it. So exactly the same sort of detailing, you know, button sculpted there, the buckles on the back which goes all along there, and we have the seam detail and the creasing to give it that lifelike effect. On the back, on the trousers, we've got the pocket sculpted there, the creasing detail which is done very well. On the jeans we've got a sort of a lighter brown finish, because they do have sort of a, I think she wore sort of velvet trousers in the Monster Paladin, and we have the great sort of grey sandy boot colour which is very well, and obviously we've got the sort of definition of a sort of burgundy sort of sole there, which I think is really good attention to detail, and the buckles sculpted on the boots there to give that lifelike look. So yeah, I think that this Sarah Jane figure might be the weakest in the set, but I have to say I low-key like it. So moving on to the comparison section for this review. So what elements have I used to make the Monster Paladin Sarah Jane? So the bottom half is using the Sarah Jane Adventures Sarah Jane figure. and obviously the top half being the Combat Martha figure. So let's do a quick comparison to the original Sarah Jane. So taking a look at the paint apps on the face, you can see that the paint apps are ever so slightly different on the Monster Paladin Sarah Jane. As you can see, the lips are less bright and the hair is a little bit more darker compared to the original release from the Sarah Jane figure. But I will say the Combat Martha body probably works better on this figure compared to the Monster Paladin Sarah Jane. So moving on to the next figure, Romana 1. Yes, we thought we'd never get a Romana 1 figure, and we get 2 in 1 year. Well, I say 4 technically if you include Romana 2. So this figure is based from her appearance in the Power of Kroll, the 5th story in the Key to Time series. And I have to say, she's probably my favourite figure of the set. I feel like this is definitely a good revision compared to the original Romana figure released back in the summer. So without further ado, let's look at the articulation, detail, and then the comparison to the other Romana figure. Moving on to the articulation for Romana 1, so the head can move ever so slightly. The arms can move just that far because it is hindered by the new PVC piece. The arms have a bicep swivel, bend at the elbow, 360 at the wrist. The waist articulation, we don't have any waist articulation because it is hindered by the PVC piece. The legs can kick out so far, but again hindered by the PVC piece. And of course we do have 360 at the thigh and bend at the knee. So moving on to the detail for Romana 1. Now I believe that this is a new head sculpt compared to the one released back in the summer. As you can see, the neck is a little bit more shorter, but if we look at the hair, you can see that the parting is more centered compared to the side parting on the Pirate Planet one, and the hair just seems a lot more different compared to the one released back in the summer. So I think that this is a new head sculpt personally. So we go back to the detail. So I think that this has much more of a stronger likeness to Mary Tamm, with a slight raised eyebrow, giving her that sort of sassy look, which I really do like. Making her feel very glamorous. I do love Romana 1. I think that she is a wonderful companion. So if you take a look at the hair now, the hair is done very well. We've got the sort of soft detailing there. It does seem a little bit soft on the sort of top of the hair, with the sort of individual strands of hair there, the parting detail. We've got sort of a dark base, brown coat, and then a sort of a lighter brown wash over it to really highlight the hair and give it that sort of textured look. We've got the curling of the hair, and a slight sort of black wash there to sort of give it sort of that sense of depth, which I really do like, and it really does texture the hair sculpt incredibly well. So the hair is done very well, but I will say that it does seem a little bit soft in areas personally, but that is done very well. You can see the slight texturing there of the individual strands of hair. So we have a new torso piece, which is quite exciting. I thought this would be the sort of same sort of material as used in sort of the Oswind figures, that sort of very rubbery PVC, but this is quite a hard plastic, which is very good. So we take a look at the actual costume. So we've got the pocket sculpted there with the slight creasing detail to give that sort of lifelike effect to it, which is done very well. We have the zip sort of painted in a dark silver, which I think works very well. It stands out just about right. We've got the black band going all the way across the actual piece there, and obviously again we've got the creasing detail on the actual costume there to give that lifelike effect. I think that this is a really good inclusion. I think that it's a very good, clever use of using the Sarah Jane body and giving a new torso piece. It just works incredibly well. I think that it just works quite effectively, and obviously you can see the original Sarah Jane sort of costume underneath, but you can't really notice that, really, can you? You just think that's part of the actual costume itself. So I think that it is a very good use of the body. Obviously the new torso piece I really like, and I think that this is probably my favourite Romana figure, Romana 1 figure they've done. So again, same costume detailing. We've got sort of a little wristwatch, which I don't think she had in the story. It's been a while since I've watched Power of Kroll. Again, we've sort of got the sleeves painted black, and obviously we've got the sort of frill detail, which isn't as noticeable as you would think. So it sort of blends into the figure very well. And then we've sort of got black jeans and the black boots, very much the same legs. Well, all these figures use exactly the same legs, so exactly the same detailing as the Sarah Jane figure, and I have to say that it is a very good figure, this Romana. Definitely my favourite of the set. So moving on to the comparison section for Romana 1. So the base figure is the Revenge of the Slitheen Sarah Jane, but obviously with the added torso piece to make it seem more in keeping with the Power of Kroll. And like I said, the head sculpt I feel is slightly revised compared to the Pirate Planet Romana what we saw released back in the summer, and I feel like this is more of a better Romana figure because it just seemed more how she appeared on screen, if you're a stickler for screen accuracy. So I do believe that this is a new head sculpt, you know, so I feel like it does work a lot better for Romana. I think it is a better likeness to Mary Tam, so I definitely prefer this Romana over the original release. Take a look at the third and final figure in the set, Romana Two, as she appeared in the Horns of Naimon. The Naimon be praised! Yes, we can recreate the famous scene, how many Naimon have you seen today? So yes, without further ado, let's look at the articulation and move on to the detail and the comparison for this figure. So moving on to the articulation for Romana Two, so the head can move side to side. The arms can do a full 360-degree turn, 360 at the bicep, bend at the elbow, and 360 at the wrist. We do have waist swivel, but it is slightly hindered by the coat. The legs can kick out and ever so slightly to the side, but again hindered by the jacket. 360 at the thigh and bend at the knee. So moving on to the detail, so we have exactly the same head sculpt as seen on the Destiny of the Daleks Romana, so exactly the same praises for that. So the hair is done very well, as you can see, and we've got sort of blonde sort of base coat and a slight sort of darker wash to really highlight and accentuate the details of the hair strand, which is done very well. Obviously we've got Romana's parting there, which is done incredibly well with the different hair sort of flicked back to give it that sort of hair texture, which is done incredibly well. So the likeness, we have the same sort of likeness and sort of praises, like I said in my Companions of the Fourth Doctor review. It is a brilliant likeness to Lalla Ward, you know, the slight little smile and the little dimples there. It just works incredibly well, and I really like it. It's a very good head sculpt and fantastic likeness to Lalla Ward. So the costume is sort of a fox hunting costume as seen in the Horns of Naimon. Now obviously they've used the Sarah Jane sort of Kudlak body, very much the same as with Destiny of the Daleks Romana. A lot of people did customs of this variant of Romana, and obviously a few months later it got officially released. So if we take a look at the costume, so my main little criticism I have for this figure is the paint on the neck. Obviously character options are trying to give the illusion of sort of the shirt collar, because Romana has quite a high shirt collar within it. But for me it just looks a bit odd having the neck painted. I would have just sort of left it, personally. It does seem a little bit odd. But that's sort of my main sort of criticism for this figure, because other than that it is a really good figure. So if we take a look at the actual costume, so if we just peel the jacket back, sorry Romana, we've got the detailing of the cravat there, sculpted there in the sort of neck chief there, sort of where the pin would be to hold the cravat in place. And we have the waistcoat painted on to give the illusion of the waistcoat, which is done very well. So that's quite a nice little bit of detail. Obviously if you're not a fan of that, then obviously the jacket is pretty much closed, so you can't really see some of that detail. So what they've done for the coat to make it seem more in keeping how she appears in the Horn of Naimon, they've given us some sort of paint decals of sort of buttons, and again on the back there. Obviously this is 100% accurate because she doesn't have sort of the fastenings on the jacket, the band of the back. But again we have the same sort of creasing details to give it that lifelike effect, which really does help make the figure pop. We've got this sort of great sort of vibrant red, which really does stand out on the shelf. And of course they've given her the burgundy gloves, which again really nice attention to detail by character. And of course we have the sort of jodhpurs painted in this nice sort of sandy white colour, and which really do stand out against the sort of costume. And of course we do have the black boots. Again, a very nice figure, great detailing, you know, with the various creasing details. I think that this is a really nice variant of Romana, and definitely one I'm very fond of. So if we take a closer look at the paint differences, you can see the Romana from the Horns of Naimon has a much more blonder hair compared to the Destiny one. You can see that this one has more of a wash over it to really highlight the hair detailing, and you can see the various difference in paint apps to make it seem more of a close approximation to how she appeared in both stories. But I will say from the side, the Horns of Naimon Romana does seem a little bit odd because this, you know, head sculpt is made and designed for the scarf. But you know, from the front it looks absolutely fine, and I think that I personally, I mean this might be a bit controversial, but I personally prefer the Horns of Naimon version compared to the Destiny one. It just seems a bit more closer to how she appeared in the actual story. So overall, what are my thoughts on the companions of the 3rd and 4th Doctor's collector figure set? Well, I have a bit of a soft spot for it actually. I think that this is a very good revision on the original, especially the work what's been done on Romana 1. I think that she is definitely the standout figure of the set. The Sarah Jane, I think, is a good enough a close approximation to how she appears in the Monster Paladin, and she does work very well with the Monster Paladin for Doctrine Tardis, but definitely is the weaker figure of the set, but I do have quite a soft spot for it. I low-key like it a lot, actually. But like I said, all the praise for Romana 1, I think that it just works better. If you're more of a stickler for sort of screen accuracy on how the characters appear on the show, then I think the Power of Kroll figure definitely does tick that box very well. Romana 2, I think, you know, to make it even more of a standout figure, I think that it would have been a great inclusion to have included her sonic screwdriver, because she does use it in the Horns of Nymon, so I think that would have been the icing on the cake for that figure if she come with her sonic screwdriver. And I think that obviously this is more of a close approximation to how she appears in the story compared to the Destiny one. The Destiny of the Daleks one is great, you know, it's very iconic. You know, the Horns of Nymon Romana was a variant people wanted and sort of half expected. It's great to finally see that be released. You know, and I think if you do have the original Companions of the Fourth Doctor set, then I definitely do consider double dipping, because I think that this is a great sort of revision, probably the best revision of the 3-packs, actually. I think this is probably my favourite of the 3-packs, because just Romana 1 is just sold the set for me. I think that is a very good revision. The likeness is more spot on to Mary Tam. It does Mary Tam more justice, and the Sarah Jane figure I do have a soft spot for it. And Romana 2, great addition. I really do like the sort of Horns of Nymon costume. It's for me one of the iconic looks of Romana, alongside the Destiny set. So I definitely do recommend this set, and if you have the original, then it is definitely worth considering double dipping, because it is a very good set in my personal opinion. So thank you very much for watching this review. I hope you have enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next figure review, which will be a review of the History of the Daleks set 4, the Daleks Master Plan. So without further ado, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. So thank you very much, and goodbye.